Hey everybody, it's Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. Welcome to the NFL Fantasy Football Podcast, where we're ready for summer vacation. It's me, your man, MG Marcus Grant, joined by Michael F. Florio and Laquan Jones. Happy June, fellas. This is officially the off season now, right? Yeah. This is when it actually, I mean, the off season is only 6 weeks long. It's basically,
it's May and June.
I was gonna say it's like June 1st to like mid-July, like that, because like even May, like you're wrapping up the draft and you got mini camps and like this is it. This is kind of the
I did a show the other day and I was like, if you never worked in an NFL office or anything, June is the deadest month.
It is the
June gloom.
It is the absolute deadest month. But we soldier on because there's still content to be made. The machine never stops. It's like the warden in Shawshank. Nothing stops. That's what it is. So we're doing a fantasy running back what if. We did quarterback what if last week. We'll do running back what ifs this week. Yes.
Okay, you've seen Shawshank, right?
No. There's no Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, we have to make it one of the movies.
Yeah, I mean, it's not part of the theme, but you got to watch the Shawshank Redemption.
It is.
All right, it's on the list.
One of the best movies ever made.
I mean, yeah, man.
And that's not me. Like, no, that's like a consensus.
That's legit. Like, yeah, man. Hope is a dangerous thing. Hope is the best of things.
I quote that movie all the time. So I would very happily rewatch it.
Oh, that's the guy from Nothing to Lose in Morgan Freeman, Tim Robbins. Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Andy Dufresne,
the man who crawled through a river of bleep and came out clean on the other side.
I said that exact line yesterday.
All right, so we got our what ifs. We're gonna do some draft prices right. I picked a few running backs and looked at their current underdog best ball ADPs. We'll figure out whether we think it's too high or too low. But I want to start with some headlines. A little bit of hype train or smokescreen, right? Because there's no actual news. This is all just sort of people talking, and we sort of try to decide what that talking means. I saw this one and immediately thought of you, Laquan. Sean Payton believes Audric Esteme needs, quote, enough touches. Now, somebody on this show might have been saying that Sean Payton is not trustworthy when it comes to figuring out running back touches and that sort of thing. Somebody else on this show was willing to chop off his right arm to draft RJ Harvey. So, Laquan, where's your RJ Harvey god now?
That is insane that you put that. And that's exactly what I said in the rundown. I was like, this is insane for him to put up as a question. But I think Sean Payton's a nice guy. When he's talking about underestimating that he needs enough touch, I think he's a nice guy. This is nice talk about his running back that he drafted last year, wanting to see more from on the field, which could be, one of the things that could be true. He could get more touches than he did last year, but I don't think this stops the RJ Harvey space shuttle going to the moon right now. So we're good to go here.
You're still on board, huh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's nothing that can shake me at this point now. I mean, it's June. It's official. It's redraft season. I'm going all in on RJ Harvey. Nothing's going to change.
Are you as confident, Florio, about this?
I don't think Audric Esteme is legit. Like, I mean, remember last year there was that 1 week where they gave him like 13 touches and for weeks, Sean Payton was like rolling out the red carpet for him. Like, we are going to get this guy more involved. And then he had that game and everyone in fantasy was like, okay, it's finally happening. I think he had 2 touches the week after that. Like he is, and this isn't me being mean. Like, he is one of the slowest running backs in the NFL. I think he's a better real life piece than fantasy piece. The RJ Harvey is the only real I will say though, like super late, I'll throw some darts on Jaleel McLaughlin, but that's about it for this backfield for me.
I'm just telling you, you guys are all gonna be you're gonna be sad. You're gonna be sad.
I'm not getting overexposed to Harvey though.
I will be overexposed.
He's someone I want on a couple of teams.
I will be the most exposed you can ever be on RJ Harvey.
Gonna get arrested for exposure on on RJ Harvey. I saw the picture that he was on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. Like, like RJ Harvey was like hanging out with Sean Payton's daughter and she was like all, excited about him on the team and what have you. And I know everybody kind of got excited and he got a little bit of a ADP bump from that. Just telling you, man, Sean Payton he's not to be trusted when it comes to his player usage, his running back usage. I mean, the quote is he's going to get those opportunities. That's what he's saying about Audric Esteme.
He could be talking about only in practice too, ladies and gentlemen. So
Esteme is a back that requires enough touches. He's going to get those opportunities.
You know what Sean Payton is? I say this from experience, having sadly my Knicks just lost to them, but he's like Rick Carlisle, man, because the entire leading up to the Knicks series and during it, he was like, the Knicks have some good players over there. We really need to worry about Precious Achiuwa, though. Like trying to get in the head of the opponent and play their subpar players. Like, I think that's what Payton is doing, right? He wants everyone to be ready for Audric Esteme so that RJ Harvey kind of catches him by surprise.
Okay, sure. I mean, look, I mean, it could be, right? I mean, when we were going through that example, I thought of, the old Notre Dame football teams with Lou Holtz, where Notre Dame is a top 5 ranked team and they're playing like Coastal Carolina. And every week Lou Holtz is like, well, those Coastal Carolina guys, man, you got to watch out for them because they can do this, this, and that. It's like, you guys are going to win by 40. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
What are we talking about? What are we talking about? So maybe that's what Sean Payton is doing. But I saw the headline and I immediately thought of ULQ, knowing how you feel about RJ Harvey, for sure. More running back talk. In fact, this just is an all running back show. It just sort of developed that way. Brian Robinson Jr. Apparently the Commanders say they feel comfortable running it back with him as their lead running back. Look, he had a decent season last year. Was splitting time with Austin Eckler back there. Obviously, the headliner in that offense was Jaden Daniels and what he did. But Robinson, 14 games, 799 rushing yards, 8 rushing touchdowns. Not much in the receiving area. So I'll start with you on this one, Floria. What is Brian Robinson's ceiling this year?
I think it's kind of similar to what it was last year. Like a RB3, he'll finish the year in that RB3 range. He'll have some weeks where he scores like 2 touchdowns and finishes as an RB1, and then he'll have some really disappointing weeks. But I don't think Austin Eckler is... I look, his best fantasy days are behind him, but I don't think he completely goes away. Like, he is a better third down, 2-minute drill back than Brian Robinson, in my opinion, at least. And those are very valuable. Jaden Daniels is going to run. He's going to steal yards and touchdowns away. I mean, they were using him by the goal line a lot last season. And then on top of it, last year was the run heaviest a Cliff Kingsbury offense has ever been. But as the year went on, it got more and more pass happy. Like, in the first half of the season, Jaden Daniels eclipsed 35 pass attempts once. In the second half of the season, including the playoffs, that's what he was averaging. So I expect a lot more throwing out of Jaden Daniels and the Commanders too this year, which to me, Brian Robinson is more of a floor play. I don't think the ceiling is all that high. So I probably won't have him on a ton of my teams because in his range, there's a lot of running backs that bring upside, in my opinion, and that's what I'm targeting.
Yeah, I know, Laquan, you were a big Brian Robinson fan last year. Not sure where you stand on him for this year, but also, are we just at a point where, is Austin Eckler even draftable? It seems like he's more of a real football piece than a fantasy football piece.
I think Austin Eckler is draftable this year, just based on what we saw last year with his limited role in time. I mean, look, he averaged 11 fantasy points per game, but so did Brian Robinson. And Florio hit the nail on the head. He's the better pass catcher of this backfield, the better third down back. And I think Austin Eckler still had some in the tank to be a red zone threat as well. So it was kind of surprising he didn't get more touches once they got closer to the goal line, being that Brian Robinson kind of struggled to get those in. So I honestly think when you're looking at Brian Robinson or Austin Eckler, they're nothing more but than a flex play. Like, you shouldn't be depending on these guys to be your everyday starter because the most efficient and best runner they have is at the quarterback position. And I think Cliff Kingsbury, is going to dial it up more so to Jaden's strengths rather than worrying about a running back duo that kind of just serves their purpose. They do their job. I mean, Brian Robinson can get you 700 yards. But, he's a very inefficient runner. So therefore, that's why you have Austin Eckler back there to be the more efficient runner who ran for 4.8 yards per carry for every opportunity he got. So he keeps the offense on task. So it's more so of this backfield that you're going to have to look at, take the cheaper option. It's going to be Austin Eckler for me, though.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely going to be the cheaper option. I thought when you were talking about it, though, and you're like, Austin Eckler averaged 11 fantasy points per game. So did Brian Robinson. that seems good for Austin Eckler and not so good for Brian Robinson.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely terrible.
Like Eckler, we knew coming in was going to be the secondary back. We hope he was going to be the pass catching back. And the way he was used, for him to average 11 points a game, you're like, oh, that's actually not bad. But for Brian Robinson to be the lead running back, and you're like, oh, he's giving you 11 points a game.
It's been blah with him, though, because if we look at the last 3 seasons, like, okay, he won the starting job his rookie year. That's the ramp up that we thought we were going to get. Like, oh, man, he's going to hit this new height. And then, he takes the starting job and gives us 700 yards, and we're kind of like, maybe it was just a bad year because the offense sucked.
Well, like the first year he was coming, like he'd been shot before the season. He missed out. Like he was working his way back. Like I think everybody was willing to kind of give him a pat. The fact that he had almost 800 yards in 12 games is like, all right, that's pretty good. Like considering the circumstances.
Yeah,
but it's never gotten better.
No,
it's kind of
it's been the same movie over and over.
Yeah,
I think he's in the wrong era, right? Like 10 years ago, Brian Robinson would have been a beast, but like. That style of back is just like if you can't contribute on third downs and stuff in fantasy, at least you're a floor play. And also, it feels like Brian Robinson is dealing with a new injury every single week, and he plays, but like every week you have to. And he doesn't always play because he missed like a handful of games last year. But like I had him on a couple of teams last year, and it felt like every week I was sweating if he was going to play or not.
That Q next to his name is actually nerve-wracking when you need him to be your RB2 this week. And that's why I'm out. I don't need that type of headache, so I'm good.
Yeah, his actual full name is Brian Robinson Jr. Q. That's what it is. That's apparently his actual name. Gonna be interesting to see. The other part of this is, are we sure? Is there any concern, I guess? Not sure. Is there any concern, Laquan, that the Commanders, I won't say take a step back, but the schedule's going to be tougher. They're not going to sneak up on anybody, right? Like everybody knows who Jaden Daniels is now. Is there a concern that maybe we don't see the Commanders offense roll along as smoothly this year as it did last year?
Well, you got Cliff Kingsbury on the stick. So if we look at his time with the Cardinals, like the offense either took a step back in one area, which will be the run game, or it improved in another area. There was no real balance within Cliff Kingsbury, his offense. And this is me being a Rams fan. I'm trying to be not biased, but I have no smoke with Cliff Kingsbury. He's gone. He's out of the West. But more so looking at how we look at this run game. Is it going to improve? Probably not. It's probably going to be the same amongst the running backs. But Jaden Daniel, the tape's out there on him, but I don't think there's going to be a defense that can really stop him or predict what he can do, because we've seen him put in very crunch time positions, and as a rookie comes in like a vet. So I'm not really worried about the Jaden Daniels sophomore slump or the Commanders taking a step back, because they improved the O-line. They got pieces. They got Deebo Samuel, thick Deebo at the time that the accusation was made. Hopefully he's less than 25 pounds than he was last year or at the Super Bowl. But more so looking at this offense, I don't know if we get a complete step back, but I think we kind of get similar to what we saw in year one.
Yeah, I think also with Deebo,
that's my MVP pick, man.
Jaden Daniels.
Like I'm all in. I think they're gonna throw the ball more. I think he's got better weapons around him now that could win in different ways and stuff. And I know we could say like he kind of snuck up on some people, but like the Eagles were very prepared for him in the NFC Championship game, and he was their toughest opponent, I would say, in the play. Like, watch how he played them and then how Patrick Mahomes played them. It was night and day.
Toughest opponent in the playoffs, Florio?
Individual?
Well,
yes.
You guys had a closer game, but I think Jaden played better than Stafford.
Absolutely. He played better than Stafford. The Rams had a better team game, but Jaden Daniels ran up and down the field.
I just had to check the temp and to make sure my Rams ain't getting disrespected in my face.
Nobody's disrespecting
you guys were the closest
Rams.
opponent.
I'm sorry. Look, Marcus, the entire weekend on TikTok, I've been arguing with 49ers fans. I mean, it's been doing numbers.
Well, that's your first mistake.
On TikTok. Yeah. I didn't know there was that many 49ers fans on TikTok, but I messed around and found out this entire weekend.
Arguing on the internet is never going to end well. I don't care what platform it is, who you're arguing with. And wait, so MVP though, Florio, like real MVP or fantasy MVP?
No, real MVP.
Wow,
like
taking down Joshy.
So if you ask me an MVP who, because there's 3 players who have won it in Lamar, Mahomes, and Allen. If you ask me someone besides those 3, I think it's Jaden.
Okay, that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
That's realistic. I love that.
Last bit of headlines here. Isiah Pacheco says he is bulking up. We got our first BSOHL story of the offseason. Best shape of his life. He's bulked up, says he's going back to 216 pounds, going back to running a 4.37 Isiah Pacheco style. Florian, I know you were really big on him before he got hurt early in the year. BSOHL, does this move the needle for you?
Yes, 100. Like I was already, you guys already joked on this pod. Like you could look at the teams, cover the names, and like which, like you could tell which ones are mine.
Yeah,
and usually it's because Isiah Pacheco is on that roster, and you're giving like I was willing to take Pacheco as a top 5 running back last year. Now you're letting me take him barely inside the top 30. Like him and Brian Robinson Jr. right now are back to back in ADP. It should not be that way because I understand how bad Pacheco looked when he returned. He was returning from a fractured fibula. And this article that you link, Marcus, hit the nail on the head, I think, when it pointed out Tony Pollard suffered that injury in the playoffs a couple years ago. And it took him to like November the following year to look the same. Pretty sure Tony Pollard's been fine since and looks right and everything. It is one of those injuries that sucks your burst out right away and stuff like that. But over time, you get it back. Plus, he talks in the article like he was rehabbing and stuff, so he had lost weight. He wasn't at his playing weight. He didn't have his normal speed, all of that. He looked awful. I get it. But if you think that is Isiah Pacheco, like, does the first 2.5 years of his career not count? Like, yeah. And then on top of that, who's in that backfield? Kareem Hunt, who didn't have an injury last year and looked like he was running in mud every time he touched the ball and is now a year older. And then Elijah Mitchell, to me, is a good depth piece and is a insurance piece in case Isiah Pacheco can't get back. But if Pacheco gets back, I still think him being a 3-down back is in the cards. And even if it's not, if they use a Smith more like McKinnon, he is still going to be a top 20 running back that I'm getting at RB 29 right now. So I'm all in on Pacheco still.
You in on your fellow Jersey boy there, Laquan?
This might be a show that my fellow Jersey people may not like me, but I am not in on Pacheco, man. Big Jersey, but I don't know if Pacheco gets back to that 2023 season with Matt Nagy gifting him all those targets out of that backfield. And I think Andy Reid is pretty bricked up about having Brashard Smith in the building as his Jared McKinnon. And I say that comfortably because you got a guy that had 1,600 scrimmage yards his last year in college. And he's a former wide receiver. He's a better natural pass catcher and route runner than Pacheco. Pacheco getting beefier, to me, just seems like he just wants to play the goal line. He just wants to find the end zone. And like you said, it might just be bad timing of what we're left with in that playoff, basically 2.8 yards per carry. Like that performance is not something I expect to carry on. I think his role just honestly changes. I don't think he's going to get those targets. So he may be in the Brian Robinson bag of, being a guy that gets you 800, 900 yards. I just don't know if he's going to be as efficient as a fantasy option week to week to be in my starting lineups for that price.
That's mostly fair. I don't know that I'm worried about a 7th round pick in Brashard Smith.
Oh no, but I'm saying this now, and I will be Mr. RB3.
I know RB3 in effect.
I'm putting the cape on.
I'm not. Look,
who's the better pass catcher out of that entire backfield? Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah, but blocking was an issue for Smith.
Man, you're gonna tell me the 7th round pick is gonna really come up here and
pass blocking matters more than pass catching in the NFL.
Yeah, man.
But that's the identity of what the Chiefs have been. They want the pass catching back to be out there running routes, helping out these wide receivers that they lack of, honestly. I mean, Rashid Rice is the only wide receiver I think is a solid in zone. Xavier Worthy, we're hoping for a sophomore, jump to go leaper and higher and hit the ground fast. But I don't know if that's going to be a role that he's going to be like taking away majority of the targets. These guys are all role players. And I think
but if you want
pass is important.
If you want somebody just running those short emergency outlet routes, they still got Sky Moore. They still got Juju. They got dudes who
it's a contract.
Maybe it happens.
Pacheco, crazy things can happen.
Maybe it happens. I don't think Brashard Smith is the guy to worry about. That's just
we heard it last year when Samaje Perine signed there. And like everyone was like, oh, they don't trust. And then it was until he got hurt. Pacheco was a 3-down back.
Yeah. But he's heavier now, though.
Well, he's bulked up. He's BSOHL.
He's back to his weight.
He's BSOHL, man.
We'll see if he runs that 3. We'll see.
Look, if Pacheco, if he gets pulled up to like RB 15 or 20. Okay, then, but at RB29, like it's free upside.
It might be that for a reason, though. I'm just saying, if it took a year and a half for Pollard to come back to be normal, like you said, November of that season, why?
But he tore it. He hurt it in January, and it took till November. Pacheco hurt it in September, and then played again.
That's true. He did play again at the end of the year.
He didn't play well again. So
he also could he also could run a 4.37. He wasn't busy trying to stomp out worms every time he had the ball in his hands. Just run, man.
It's angry, man.
Just go. All right. A little bit of I call it hype trainer smokescreen. We didn't actually say hype trainer smokescreen, but you get the point of what we're trying to do here. Last week, we did some quarterback what ifs. I had 5 questions about different quarterbacks, about what could happen that maybe we're not anticipating. So now felt like it'd be a good idea to do the same thing with some running backs. So got 5 different running backs here on the list of varying degrees of excitement. And we'll kind of go through these. First one, because Florio, I know that like Laquan beefing with folks on TikTok, you have had some disagreements with people on X, Twitter, whatever, about Travis Etienne. Obviously, he has underperformed the last couple of years. The Jaguars trying to remake that backfield altogether. We've seen Tank Bigsby in the past get opportunities. They drafted Bashaw Tootin, who, by the way, was shouted out by Bucky Brooks recently on the Move the Sticks podcast. But through all of that, Florio, what if Travis Etienne is the RB1?
It's possible. Like, this is heading to a camp battle. But yesterday, Liam Cohen had some glowing words for Travis Etienne, and they kind of took the internet by storm. So I tweeted, don't forget, just last year, Liam Cohen walked into Tampa with an incumbent running back that went for over 1,500 yards and 9 touchdowns the year prior and proceeded to hand the backfield to a day 3 pick. Everyone is like, well, Rachaad White wasn't as good as his stats were that year, which, Marcus, you can attest. I was like very vocal on the anti-White train and was like, he's not a good runner. They're just throwing him the ball a bunch and all of that. But I'm sorry, I forgot where Travis Etienne was good last year. Because people were like, oh, well, Etienne is better than Rachaad White. You mean the Travis Etienne who posted career lows in rushing yards, receiving yards, scrimmage touchdowns, was negative in rush yard over expectation, and EPA below average in yards per carry, yards before and after contact, and was just about league average in missed tackles forced. I'm sorry, I forgot that guy was untouchable. I also forgot that he didn't lose his job last year to a running back that is still on the roster. And then everyone is like, well, context matters. Bucky Irving is so much better than Tootin. I'm not disagreeing with that, but if you all thought that a year ago, Bucky Irving wouldn't have gone undrafted in the majority of leagues or wouldn't have been a late round dart throw in the majority of leagues. And the other thing, like, Bucky went 4th round in a weak running back class. Tootin went 4th round in a strong running back class. To me, if Cohen likes the running back, he is going to get the most out of him. We have seen that already before. So I definitely think this is coming to a camp battle. I think Bigsby, Etienne, and Tootin are all in the mix here. But people are taking a June quote and slam dunking it like Travis Etienne is going to be the RB1 this year. It is ridiculous. It is a reminder to go outside and touch some grass because we don't know anything right now, and we're not going to know anything on this backfield till July and August. But yeah, I do think the fact that we've already seen Cohen come in and be like, I picked this running back in the 4th round, which, by the way, the Jaguars didn't have a 2nd round pick this year. So that 4th round pick was very valuable capital to them. And they don't have a 1st next year either. Like, it was valuable capital, and they used it on a running back. So yes, I do think he is going to have a chance to steal the job and stuff. And the other thing, do you expect him to come out and be like, Travis Etienne is awful and we don't want him on this team? Like, what coach is going to do that when you have the potential of trading him or something if it comes to that? So yeah, I'm sorry. People made way too much of this June quote, and I just thought it was kind of ridiculous.
Get some water, man. Go get some water. Take a breath. You absolutely cooked. So Laquan, is there a chance that Liam Cohen is pulling a Sean Payton and just trying to gas up his guy in Travis Etienne and maybe turn around and end up giving a big workload to the rookie? Is that possible?
Yes, and look, it wouldn't be a bad thing. I mean, Rachaad White looked good, resurged in his opportunities. He was averaging 14 fantasy points per game in the core of the fantasy regular season. So it's like, I could deal with that as a flex. Like, I'm okay with that. And that could be Travis Etienne as a central RB1 of that backfield and still find relevance in Tootin. So I think, Travis Etienne might serve a purpose as a better pass catcher, third down back, kind of like what Rachaad White was last season. And Tootin be the Bucky Irvin in that backfield that gets all the opportunities to be explosive and to be elusive in open field and make some scoring opportunities. Like, I think this is a backfield that, honestly, if you're too worried about or confused about, just take the cheaper option. Take Tank. Because if Travis Etienne sucks, Tank is going to go right into that role. And then you got the cheapest option there with no headaches.
I was going to say, if you're concerned about how this thing is going to go, stay away from it just altogether.
That's kind of my approach.
Because
I kind of want a piece of it.
Because the worst case is that all three of these guys get opportunities. I'm looking at the usage from last year in Tampa. Rachaad White, 51% of the snaps. Bucky Irving, 45% of the snaps. I mean, that was pretty much just those two guys there. But, I mean, you look at what they did in Jacksonville last year in terms of handing out opportunities. Etienne at 47, Bigsby at about 35%. Dearness Johnson actually got a little bit of run in there as well, nearly 20% of the snaps for him. That is my fear, is that suddenly it's Etienne at about 40. It's Tootin at about 35. It's Bigsby at about 30. And then we're all just miserable because that's just not enough for any of them.
I would take the shot on Tank. I mean, we saw Sean Tucker last year too, find some explosive plays and find opportunities as the third head of that backfield, but we still were riding with Bucky, most weeks. So it's like, if it ends up getting cut that way, I still want the cheapest option where you saw Tank Bigsby take Etienne's job last year, and he could be the guy that could find fantasy relevance at the cheapest cost on draft day.
He also had 4 fumbles.
I know he's the cheapest, but Bigsby is the one I feel least interested in.
He was more explosive than Travis Etienne. So it's like...
He was, but all three are pretty explosive. He's just the one that's the least pass catcher chops.
Yeah.
So that... But this has headache potentially written all over it.
It does.
So I'm not... people were like, "You're a Tootin stan," and I'm like, "Am I?" Like I don't target him in my drafts that I'm doing now. Like I'm avoiding this backfield because of that reason that I said. Like
I think
it could go to anyone.
On the sticks is why I just want a piece of it. If this was like the Patriots backfield, which has somewhat of a similar situation with what they got going on, I would stay away. Just being that's the biggest question mark. I know they want to run the ball, but with Liam Cohen showing the proof in the pudding, like he's part of that Thomas Brown and bringing Cam Akers back into fantasy relevance on the back end of his career leaving LA. He was responsible for Bucky Irvin being fantasy relevant as a guy that went undrafted in most leagues. So it's like, I trust in Liam Cohen's vision when it comes to these backfields.
I love
by the way,
he had to sneak that in.
No, I'm fine with that. I am surprised, by the way, Laquan, that you would ride for Tank Bigsby of this group just because of how you feel about Kyron Williams putting the ball on the ground.
Oh boy,
with Bigsby having 4 fumbles. I mean, he only lost 1.
I ain't paying that high price for him. That's
but
why
he had 4 fumbles last year. So
he's fumbling for the Jags. I don't care.
Two in fumbles.
We don't care about the 1 points, right?
Negative. I mean, look, that's how I felt. I'm just saying you're the one who was ready to throw Kyron Williams off the Hollywood sign because he can't hold on to the football.
Personally, as a Rams fan, and it hurts my fantasy rosters. I'm just saying.
All right.
It's more so driven my personal.
I was just trying to get clarity. That's all. Maybe the most interesting running back, certainly of the rookie class, is Ashton Jeanty. Everybody is big on him. He has been kind of the undisputed, first pick in dynasty rookie drafts this year. He's a guy who's very much knocking on the door, the back end of the first round in redraft leagues and that whole sort of thing. But Laquan, what if he is just stuck behind a bad offensive line? Like, he's a good player, but what if the Raider offensive line is just 5 turnstiles? Then what?
That would be real nasty work because Jeanty is so high right now. And I do feel like I'm a little more hesitant now of taking Ashton Jeanty, how aggressive some folks are getting. I've seen him as high as RB3. And like that will be coming the period of if you're going Gibbs or if you're going Jeanty. So like with that in mind, if the O-line is still bad, like to be honest, it wasn't bad last year. You know, like it's middle of the pack as for PFF if you're looking at the run blocking grades, if you trust them, whatever the case may be. They were middle of the pack. But when you look at the guys they had back there running the ball, like they had the suicide squad of like running back rooms, right? The worst version of them. Like it was just like, okay, I kind of get why we didn't see the run game, you know, actually look good because they had Alexander Madison and Amir Abdul finish second in carries on team and Zamir White, which was a total fantasy fail. So it's like when you insert an Ashton Jeanty behind a decent middle of the pack run blocking line, I think he takes that and elevates it to the next level. So hopefully, you know, Ashton Jeanty, his destiny is in his own hands if he's going to be a good running back behind this mid-tier O-line.
I mean, we all love him, right? And we've all sort of conceded that right now where he's going, people are drafting him at his absolute ceiling. Yeah. But man, if that O-line is bad and if the Raiders are trailing and playing from behind, you know, we could get our hearts broken a little bit. I mean, I think that's why we're doing this what ifs, but it's in the realm of possibilities, right?
Yeah.
It is, but I think we've seen enough of Pete Carroll and especially the Pete Carroll, Geno Smith to know that his games are going to come down to like, it's just what Pete Carroll does. He keeps the games close until the end and he tries to pull it out late. But like, I'm not really worried. I get the O-line concern, but like Jeanty is such a physical force and so hard to tackle that he's going to break a bunch of tackles and just be gone. So like, I have him ranked as my RB4 and I'm not too concerned about him.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, I understand the draft price. I feel like I'm not going to get him in a lot of leagues just because of where he's going. It just depends on where I am, I guess, in the draft order, because you're only going to get one real shot at him. And if you're not in the right spot in the first
105, round, you pulling the trigger?
No.
See, that's what it is.
That's because I'm taking wide. Like, it's not like I would take Gibbs over him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm taking CD. I would take, for me, he'd have to be late first because if I could get Malik Neighbors or Puka Nacua in the middle of the first, I'm doing it.
Yeah. Also, there is a difference between breaking tackles in the Mountain West and breaking tackles in the AFC West.
That is true.
You know, it's just
absolutely true.
His first time getting wrapped up by Chris Jones is going to feel a little
bit different, right? It's a little bit different. A little bit different than when you're running through linebackers at Hawaii. I'm just saying. Just a little different. In I almost said in San Diego. Like, what year am I in? In Los Angeles, Najee Harris now has a lightning bolt on the side of his helmet, but we're big on Amarian Hampton. He's another guy who's going early in drafts. A lot of times he's going ahead of Najee Harris. But Florio, what if Najee Harris pulls a J.K. Dobbins? Then what?
There's going to be a whole lot of sad Omarion Hampton managers. And that is my fear. Like you're still paying in early drafts right now. You're getting Hampton's going as the RB15, whereas Najee Harris is an RB35. Like, I fully admit Hampton has the more upside. He's more explosive and all of that. But I don't think Najee Harris goes away. I think that especially early on, I think he is going to get a crack at being highly, highly involved. So we're going to talk about it more when it comes to ADP and some running backs, but I don't really find myself targeting Hampton at his ADP because I love the running backs a couple of rounds later, and I don't have to pay that price with the risk tied to it. So plus, look, it's June and J.K. Dobbins is still out there. So like the closer we get to the start of the season, the higher the odds are, in my opinion, of him returning to LA.
I mean, what happens then, Laquan, if J.K. Dobbins does come back to the Chargers? Then it's a complete mess back there, right?
Okay, this would be a backfield that falls on that list that I will avoid because, again, I mean, Amarian Hampton would be too pricey at that ADP, and then you don't want to take Najee because he falls in that bag of a guy that's not going to go anywhere. So it's like, I feel like the opportunities are just be splitting hairs, and then you add J.K. Dobbins, it's like, all right, I'm out. I'm pulling back. Like, I just don't need any parts of this backfield trying to figure it out on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, that's one that seems like a potential. Oh, here we go. We got this is Amarian Hampton shaking hands with Jim Harbaugh.
massive human being.
Which Jim Harbaugh's looking kind of Tom Cruise-ish in that picture there. Like
he's a child. He's a child in that picture. Like I comped Amarian Hampton to Brock Lesnar, and it just fits because like he's freakishly athletic to be the size that he is. It's insane.
I mean, it reminds me of, and I know I've told this story on the show before, but seeing Derrick Henry just before his rookie year come through the NFL Network offices, and I knew who he was, so I was like, "Oh, it's Derrick Henry." But if I didn't, and you had told me that he was the number one edge rushing prospect in the draft, I would have been like, "Okay, yeah, sure, that makes sense." Like, I mean, that's how big he was. I'd have been like, "Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I get that."
It's a massive human,
right?
I don't want to compare situations like apples to apples, but because I know the fantasy community hates Najee Harris, but we saw Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs not get the volume we wanted them to get as rookies because of Tyler Algier and David Montgomery. Like that to me feels like if Najee Harris gets goal line work, that is going to really hurt Hampton's fantasy value. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like we're just pushing him up and just ignoring Najee, and I don't think it's
every year
totally right.
That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to push guys up because of excitement over our off-season t-shirts and short slow motion.
Are we?
To set up our other league mates. I mean, that's why I come on this
or can we learn from our past mistakes and maybe avoid them in the future? Like maybe that's what we should do. Maybe we should try to be better. By the way, you talked about the guys who prevented Bijan and Gibbs from getting volume. One of those two guys you mentioned was actually #good.
Yeah.
You know, like at least you felt like, okay, well, Jahmyr Gibbs isn't getting touches, but David Montgomery is like balling. Like Tyler Algier is just like, what are we doing here? Like,
he's a pretty good backup running back. He's one of the handcuffs that is valuable. His rookie year,
but he wasn't. But we didn't want him taking touches from Bijan.
Well, you know why that happened. It was the old Arthur Smith show, you know? And that's another conversation to be had about Caleb Johnson, but we'll see.
Well, we'll get to Caleb Johnson a little bit later on in the show for sure. This one may be a little bit near and dear to my heart. Laquan, what if Javonte Williams isn't totally washed?
You know what, Marcus? I will buy you a Javonte Williams jersey if he is not washed.
All right, well, I guess I'm not getting a Javonte Williams jersey.
I will gift it to you and say happy birthday, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year, man, because that will be something to see if he's not washed. Because I honestly don't know what this backfield is because, again, you have Jaden Blue, you have Miles Sanders there. There's still no confirm that he's going to be the guy to take the rock majority of the time. And, like, this kind of feels like the season when Zeke returned back, where everybody's like, well, somebody has to be the goal line back. Somebody has to be the third down back. Well, this somebody in this backfield is not there right now currently for me to feel like he's going to be good. So that's just where I'm at with it. Like if he's not washed, hey, Marcus, shout out to you.
I don't think he may not be totally washed, but he's probably 75% washed at this point.
If he's not, he's going to be a big value.
He's going to be a huge value if he's not. But I have been taking Jaden Blue in late rounds where I can because I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity. I think the big fear is that somehow Miles Sanders. No.
I will say
no.
I will like Rico Dowdle wasn't great last year, but he went for 1,000 yards and he was viable for fantasy. And then the Cowboys chose Javonte over Rico for the same amount of money. Like they signed identical contracts.
Yeah.
That's
so
crazy.
The Schottenheimer running back has topped 1,000 yards each of his 2 years in Dallas.
All right.
He does not use a second running back.
1,000 yard, that bar should be moved.
Oh, no,
no, it should.
It definitely should be moved. But for now, I mean, it's a nice round number.
But if you want volume, his RB1, 235 or more carries and at least 49 targets in each of the 2 years he was there.
Yeah.
Dak, stay healthy.
Which, by the way, I mean, obviously the bar should be moved above 1,000 yards. But Brian Robinson has never run for 800 yards in a season.
799.
Ooh,
799 is not 800. 799 is not 800.
Someone's never watched The Price is Right.
Seriously, like 799
Ain't 800. Wow.
Dustin Pedroia has a 299 batting average. He did not hit 300 in his career. Just saying.
I know that happened to Mickey Mantle too. Like he fell behind it his last year. And it's like, why did you have to do this, man?
Yeah. Just that's it. That's all it is. Last one. This is probably the least exciting one, but we'll get through this one. Florio, what if Devin Singletary is still a thing in New York?
I'm gonna be very sad because my most drafted running, like I'm telling you, they're in that 20 RB 20 through 30 range. That's where all my most drafted running backs are right now. You got DeAndre Swift, you got Isiah Pacheco, and you got Cam Scatterboo. So like if Devin because I'm already preparing for like Scatterboo to beat out Tracy as the year goes on, but if Singletary is still involved, it's gonna be where it's hard for any of them to be really more than like a flex option in fantasy in this offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Laquan, it's going to be Tracy and Scatterboo for the most part. At least I think by the time we get later in the season, right? Yeah. I have this sense that at least in the early part of the year, we're going to see Singletary get some opportunities and maybe eventually get phased out. But there's a part of me that's worried that Devin Singletary is going to pop off for a couple of games and the Giants going to look around and be like, hey, man, maybe he deserves more touches. Like that is in the realm of possibilities, right?
That does seem likely to happen, at least for the beginning part of the season. And it's going to be very frustrating as a Cam Scatterboo, shareholder, because I'm on the Scatterboo train. It's just that this Giants team does not look good for me to even like fully get exposure on these guys. So like if Singletary's still a thing, that means, things aren't going right with Scatterboo to be like an RB1 that everybody wants him to be. And with Tracy, I think he did a very good job with his opportunities last year. Mm-hmm. So I know for a fact that he ain't going nowhere. I mean, he was very great in the passing game as well. So it's one of those things that you have to gamble with the backfield. This will be in that bag of I'm fading at all costs with these backfields, though.
No, I mean, I thought
Brian Daboll's never benched Singletary before.
I thought Tyrone Tracy was pretty good last year, and I was glad to see him get an expanded role as the season went on. And I think it's going to be. I think he gets first crack at things, and then it becomes a battle between Singletary and Scatterboo to see who's sort of the RB2 there. Yeah. I'd like to believe that by midseason, Scatterboo has taken that over, but, not impossible.
I think Scatterboo is better than Tracy.
That's
I don't know.
Arguing.
That's the crazy part. I don't know. I can't say yes or no.
Yeah, that's at least worth arguing, I think. Not on this episode.
I think Tracy's a really good NFL RB2.
All right.
I don't think he's a 1.
Okay.
Person.
No, that's one we should dive into. Not on this episode, but we can definitely get into it. As we round out the show, this whole running back edition of the NFL Fantasy Football Podcast, figured I'd go through some underdog ADPs, pick out a few running backs, and we could determine whether or not the draft price is right. If the ADP is too high or too low. No Bob Barker, please spay and neuter your pets, all that whole stuff. Want to start with Jonathan Taylor, because I think our last mock draft, someone drafted him and in the chat was like, why is everybody avoiding Jonathan Taylor? Like, what's wrong with him? And we were kind of like, I don't know, like, could be good, could be not good, depends on the quarterback situation. Right now, he is the 8th pick in the second round. That is the average spot of where he is going in best ball drafts. Laquan, is JT, is he a Jersey guy, Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, he's a Jersey guy, and I said earlier, they might not like me on this one.
I was say, I mean, because you already, you already chopped the legs out from underneath Isiah Pacheco, so 2.8, too high or too low for JT?
That's too high, man. Because when we look at the situation, right, he's still going to have the up and down season with the quarterback situation. They're going to stack the box. And then we look at last season. I mean, look. The last 3 games is where he got 500 yards and half of his scores even recorded for him to be such a high fantasy value right now. When we look at the core of this, 13 games, that's all I need from a player. He played 10 of them and he was RB19. So why am I paying that 2.8 price for him when 3 seasons in a row he's faced injury? His quarterback situation hasn't changed. And it's not going to be a great situation there where you grab him as your RB1, but most of the season, when you're climbing to get to the fantasy playoffs, he's not contributing or helping you get to the fantasy playoffs. So that's my biggest thing with him, where I don't look at the 1,400 yards as something he earned the entire season. He had 200 yards against the freaking, what was it? It was the Titans. Like, come on. Like, these are all bad defenses, and we account for that. I think we need to stop doing that, too, for when we take the fantasy playoffs into account for some of these players that miss time during the regular season. Those managers remember those games he didn't play. They remember the sorry games of him putting up RB2 or less numbers going into week 10. So it's like, what are we doing here? Why are we pumping him up for where that's not guaranteed to even start off or be continuous through the season if we're 3 seasons in a row of him facing injuries to that ankle?
So I can't mention that he averaged 156 rushing yards per game weeks 14 through 18?
No, because you probably didn't make the playoffs because his price was higher than what it is now. So it doesn't make sense.
I mean, where are you at on 2.8 for JT, Florio?
I'm in. I originally was like, I'm not saying every time he's there, I'm taking him, but I think that's an appropriate price for him because his upside is higher than RB8. We've seen that before. And I agree with a lot of what LQ said. The good thing is he's going to play that same Titans defense twice this year. He's going to play the Jags twice this year, who he ate against. But also, like, one, I got to look at his numbers with Anthony Richardson, but I'm pretty sure they're good because, like, in the first 5 games of the season for him, he topped 88 rushing yards and all but one in 103 of those 5 games. So I think his numbers with Anthony Richardson are good, and we always hear about that, right? When you get a running QB, it helps open up lanes and stuff. But when he gets Daniel Jones, he could catch a lot of passes there because Daniel Jones is a dump-off type of quarterback. So I think it could look very different depending on how the QB is, but I still do think Jonathan Taylor brings enough upside where, like, if I start my draft with a wide receiver in the early portion of round 1, if I could have a pick between, like, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs at the end of round 2, early round 3, like, I'm in on that because they have the, like, to me, the floor and the upside is high enough where if I could get that as my RB1 without taking one in the first round, I'm feeling pretty good about that.
I'm okay with it at 2.8, but I would also make sure I'm backing it up with another running back on the back.
So
Either I'm getting one.
I don't want to double tap.
Either
Why?
I'm getting one in the first round and I'm taking Taylor and as my RB2, or I'm taking Taylor and I'm getting another one right behind him.
I like that rather. If you get Gibbs or Barkley in round 1 and then you wrap around at JT, that's fine.
If I'm getting Gibbs in round 1, I'm probably not taking another running back for a few rounds.
That's how I feel. That's why I said double tapping in that second and third. You're missing out on so much good value in that third round when it comes to the wide receivers. Like Garrett Wilson has fallen to the early third round. Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore. I'd rather take those high.
Yeah, I love all those guys.
Over
we're back in on Garrett Wilson now. I thought we were all out on Garrett Wilson.
No, I like the other guys more.
I
thought we were out on Garrett Wilson. When did that change?
I think it changed because
he's also going like wide receiver 13. Like we never get a discount on Garrett Wilson.
No,
I think there's a reason for that.
But also, I'm looking at his game log now. Jonathan Taylor had 1, 2, 3, 4 games last year where he ran for less than 88 yards. Like he was still a very effective runner.
Yeah. Here's the thing. He was not a first round running back in terms of production last year. At least week to week production, right?
Yeah.
But late second round, I actually think it's okay.
So Brees Hall, CMC, or Jonathan Taylor? See how nasty it looks?
CMC.
I would take Taylor over Brees Hall, but CMC over.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah. CMC over all those guys.
I'm just saying, over most games over 88, that's a safe floor. And then we saw what his ceiling was at the end of the year, which I'm not expecting that over 16 games, but he can go for 200 any week.
So he's not a terrible pick. Like, I want to make that clear. He's not a terrible pick there. I just would rather different options there. Like, I don't feel like he is price value there where you have Devon Achane, Kyron, Brees, CMC. These are other running backs going in that range and tier where I'd rather go that route.
I think we all kind of feel the same. Like, none of us are saying he's a slam dunk pick there, but we're all saying he's like an appropriate price.
Yeah, I think that's
too high. Fair. I'm going to say it's too high then.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, that's fair. Too high. All right, we can go with that one. Also, I think I'm avoiding the Colts offense for the most part this year. I think that's
he's the only Colts I have.
Josh Downs, no.
At the right price, like later in drafts, but even that, like
if it's Daniel Jones,
but also
great value.
Also, Josh Downs, I'm drafting him as like a third or fourth wide receiver. Like that's how I'm drafting Josh Downs.
Okay.
Yeah.
That went longer than I thought. Joe Mixon at the 5-5, fifth pick in the fifth round. Florio, too high or too low?
Me and LQ might spar on this one.
Oh, boy.
I'm out on Joe Mixon.
What?
Really?
Look, I understand how good he was last season, but my approach is always I would rather be a year early than a year late on a player, and he is about to be 29 years old. He has a lot of wear and tear on the tires. He has an injury history in the NFL. And last year was a weird year. History is always like, you don't want to take an aging running back that changes teams. And then last year, they were all good. But that O-line got worse. And even more than that, it's the price, right? Like, I could take Joe Mixon as the RB16, but I keep saying it, man. Like, in the 20s, there's Travion Henderson, there's James Conner, there's Kaleb Johnson, DeAndre Swift, Pacheco. Like, I would rather wait 2 rounds and get those guys and take a wide receiver where I have to take Joe Mixon rather than take Mixon there and then have to deal with the later wide receivers later on.
All right. So I'm guessing, Laquan, you're cool with it at 5-5.
Yes, like this is where I honestly did builds where he's my RB1. And I say that just based on what we saw last season. I mean, look, again, in those 10 games, he was RB2 behind Saquon Barkley, averaging 21 fantasy points per game in the first 14 weeks. And again, I know he missed a couple games, but the injury history has always been there with Mixon. He's never been an efficient runner. And like Florio said, his narrative was more so every single year since 2021 was, I'd rather be a year earlier than late getting out on Mixon, and he's shown and improved us every single season. He could be an RB1. So like him going at this 5-5, yeah, I'm in. I'm on it, man, because again, who's there threatening those targets? It's not Woody Marks. I don't want to hear it. It's Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon last season still was explosive, still was the guy to get the ball in his hands when it comes to the goal line. There's nothing that really worries me about Joe Mixon other than health. But other than that, he's still a running back that's going to get 270 touches and 300 yards since 2021. He's the only running back that done that 4 times.
You know what threatens Joe Mixon's targets? The 17 wide receivers the Texans have on their roster. That's what threatens those targets. I mean, I'm okay with it at 5-5. Like, I think that's fine. Whereas, I could make the argument that Jonathan Taylor at 2.8 is maybe a touch high. I think Joe Mixon is fine at 5-5. And I'm thinking of it just because of the way I tend to build rosters, right? Where I may get a really good running back in round 1. I'll probably get a couple of wide receivers, maybe a tight end and or QB, depending on how things shake out. But about around round 5, round 6, I'm probably looking to come back to the running back position again. So Joe Mixon is my RB2. I'm okay with that at 5-5.
Hell yeah.
I agree with the wide receiver point because, like, let's remember, like, they lost Nico Collins for a good stretch. Stephon Diggs was out. Tank Dell was out. So, like, I think that did kind of prop his target volume up. Plus, he was the opposite of Jonathan Taylor. He was awful the final month of the season.
All right. But he still helped me get to a championship when the core of the fantasy season mattered. I remember those weeks, man. I'm a guy that just...
He helped you get to the playoffs. He did not help you get to the championship.
That's all I need. That's fine. That's fine.
He was giving you 23 yards, 26 yards in those
the last 2
weeks,
games don't count. They were going to the playoffs, so they lowered his, touch
efficiency. For your fantasy squad, like...
Week 15, first week of the playoffs, he ran for 23 yards.
Okay, what about Pacheco?
Well, Pacheco was hurt.
I don't care, man. I'm Joe Mixon until the day I die.
All right.
Fair.
Okay. This one, I feel like this one might be easy. I think we might all agree on this one. Alvin Kamara, the 6-1. That, I don't know, Laquan. I mean, I guess because there's nothing else there, but everybody knows there's nothing else there. That feels way high to me.
It is a little high, and I understand the darkness and fears of getting any player in New Orleans right now, but he would have to really be like my RB2/flex. Like that would have to be a decision I would have to make based on the first 5 rounds of how I built. But again, who's going to catch the ball? It's going to be Alvin Kamara. I mean, like the opportunity is there for him, but how good are these value of these touches are going to be with this offense? Like that's the biggest question.
What if Tyler, I know we're not doing quarterback what ifs, but what if Tyler Shock is just like bleep it, Chris Olave is down there somewhere. Like, what if he turns into that guy, Florio? Then Kamara's not getting those targets anymore.
Yeah.
And that was the thing I wrote about Chuck when I watched him was like, I don't think he has a gunslinger arm, but he thinks he does. And he's like, he's going to fire that thing off. So, like, yeah, like 10 QB. And that's the thing when it comes to running back targets. Like, it's almost, in my opinion, at least, it's almost more of a quarterback stat than it is a running back stat because you need to have a quarterback willing to dump the ball off to you.
Yeah.
And I know Kamara has been awesome at that and stuff, but Derek Carr does dump the ball off at one of the highest rates. Plus, it's a new system. He's going to be 30. The Saints could just be awful offensively. Like, I think his price makes sense. I'm just never really the person paying.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I'm out on the Colts. I'm also very out on the Saints.
Yeah.
Be out on bad offenses. It's one of the best things you can do.
You know, sometimes this
like I'm not out on
simple.
Kamara. It's just that where he's going in drafts, it makes me kind of like maybe I should think other options here.
There are some names that I just look at them and I'm like, I can't do it. Like maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not going to take the chance. And Alvin Kamara right now is one of those where like, hey, look, maybe there is something left, and maybe they figure out how to get him to a decent number this year. I'm not willing to take the risk.
Game. So I don't know. It's one of those things I have to be in the situation to see it happen. All right. If I'm going to do it or not.
Let's say you're in the situation where you have the 9th pick in the 7th round, Laquan, and Kaleb Johnson is right there because that is his ADP. Because you have you've come around on Kaleb, right? Because you know, for a while you were saying he was like a human sleep aid when you were watching his tape. And then he goes to Pittsburgh and you're like, all right, I think I can kind of get down with this. So, you know, late 7th round, are you okay with Kaleb Johnson there?
I'll be sleeping because no, he's not one of the rookies I'm looking for, you know, the high ceiling, you know, that a lot of other guys that I'd rather take in that 7th round on that back end. It just feels like a wide receiver. You know, I will get the Josh Downs. I'll get the Jalen McMillans. I'll get, you know, guys that I think can actually have a high ceiling as a wide receiver 3 rather than Kaleb Johnson or Arthur Smith that we're led to trust with Arthur Smith on the sticks that he won't pull a Bijan and Tyler Algier with Jalen Warren and Kaleb Johnson. So that's one of those things that, you know, I just feel like, nope, not interested. I'm good. He's way too high right now.
If they find a quarterback between now and training camp, does that change how you might? Well, first of all, I mean, are you okay with it? And if not, does a quarterback addition maybe change that?
I'm operating as if Aaron Rodgers is the Steelers quarterback. So if he's not the QB, then I have to change things because, yeah, but this is another one of those prices. Like I like Kaleb Johnson a lot. I'm okay with his price. It's not a slam dunk though, because like, I like DeAndre Swift more at that price because Ben Johnson, like that being 100% honest, that's the biggest thing. But I looked into this yesterday. Najee Harris on 1st and 2nd down last year, 60% of the snaps, 251 carries, 43 targets. Like he dominated usage. That's more than double the amount of carries as Warren and more targets than him. And on 3rd down, it was more Warren, but on 3rd down, they were running the quarterbacks. Like, so I know that won't be the case this year, but I could see Kaleb playing that Najee role and getting all of the early down work and getting the short yardage work. And he's more explosive, which could lead to big plays. So I want some shares of Kaleb Johnson. I'm not going to like be overexposed, but I definitely want him on a couple of my teams.
Yeah. And I think right about there, actually, I'd prefer to wait if I could wait around maybe 2. Like I think I'd feel a little bit better about it, but I'm willing to take some shots on Kaleb Johnson.
But he has no wiggle.
Regardless of who the quarterback is. Yeah, but volume. He'll get that volume.
He'll get that volume behind the line of scrimmage with a high stuff rate at 44%, but we're not going to say anything about that.
I mean, dude, you were up here like singing the praises of Tank Bigsby. Like, what are we doing? Like, what? What?
I was not singing the praises. He is not part of the RB3 group. It's just saying if you want part of that backfield, I'll take the cheapest option. All right. That's about it.
Okay.
If Johnson was his team's RB3 though.
Yeah, right. Like
LQ would be.
Let's
maybe.
Let's say the Our Lads depth chart was a little bit different. It had Jalen Warren 1, Kenneth Gainwell 2, and then Kaleb Johnson 3. then Laquan would be all about that life. You would be about that KJ life.
Wait, so are you in on Gainwell? Since he's
I'm not
the third
in
there?
on anything that's going on in Pittsburgh. Now.
Trey Sermon's like just behind him on the depth chart.
Trey Sermon. I thought he still was an
Who's the Colts RB3?
That is
DJ Giddens. At this point,
it is currently Riley Leonard. No, sorry, it's quarter. Yeah,
are you in on Riley Leonard?
No, sorry, that's QB. I was looking at the wrong line.
I was gonna say
DJ Giddens is.
Yes, I am in on Giddens.
I am in on Giddens as well, though.
Yes, let's go. The RB3 crew, let's go.
Really? So, like, you guys are meh on Jonathan Taylor, but you're in on DJ Giddens? Make it make sense.
No. I'm in on Giddens as like a dart throw at the end of best ball in case Taylor misses time or something.
Which he will. It's been 3 years in a row.
Got it.
So if it was Khalil Herbert, would you be in on him?
I was on Khalil last year and I got smacked in the face.
Got burned, huh? Yeah, you got burned on that.
He fumbled the ball on his first touch, man. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Fumbles. And he's
all right.
back.
Well, there you go. That's our running back show. We'll come back. We'll have the cheat sheet on Thursday. We'll be talking about Extraction 2 after we reviewed Extraction last week. So Tyler Rake back at it again for a second adventure.
Did we get the date on 3?
I have not seen a date on 3, just 2025, which we are about halfway through now. So, yeah.
Hey, we got a date for Stranger Things finally after the youngest one of them graduated high school.
I mean, like those kids are all like, they all have kids of their own now at this point. So,
wow.
You know, so
11 is legit married.
Yes. Yes. 11 is married. I think the guy who played Joe is literally like 30 years old. Not Joe. He is Joe. Steve.
Mike.
The guy who plays Steve. Steve is 33 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
That and Euphoric. It's like the clocks ran up on on that show.
That
shows, man.
Done, man. They took my boy out, man.
I missed it when it was actually on, and then I tried to go back and watch it, and I felt uncomfortable because right, because I'm like I'm approaching middle age, and I'm watching high school students do the things that they're doing in that show, and I felt uncomfortable, and I'm like, I don't think this show is for me. I just
there's no way they were in high school.
No,
it's just like this show is just over the top. No. Oh my god.
So, all right. So anyway, Thursday's cheat sheet. We'll do Extraction 2. We'll do some other stuff. We'll be back with you next Tuesday. Maybe we'll do some mock draft stuff, or maybe we'll do some wide receiver what ifs. I don't know. We'll figure all that out as we come along. You know, if you listen to the show, you know we sort of come up with things on the fly here. It's just kind of how we operate.
Love it.
Anyway, that'll do it for this edition of the NFL Fantasy Football Podcast. Stay happy, safe, and healthy. Do good and live well. Enjoy the days, everybody. We will talk to you again on Thursday.